are officially starting a new episode of Dream Big with Zhanna, inspiring you to reignite and refire and refuel your life. And you guys, for another beautiful, amazing, educational, and inspirational treat today, because my guest, my special guest today, is the returning guest on the show. It's Audrey Sussman. Yay! You see her. You see her on the screen. If you're watching us, if you're listening, and you are new to Audrey's life, and you haven't heard about her, we're gonna correct that in a second, and I'll give you a little bit of the official bio on this amazing individual. So Audrey Sussman, Ph.D., director and hypnotherapist at the Anxiety Control Center, has been working with the individuals and groups as both a clinician and trainer for 30 years, developing many dynamic, effective workshops from her experiences and research. Her approach has proven effective for parents and children, from the gifted to the multiply handicapped. Her passion is to offer tools that can change stress and strife to an ultimate calm and loving way of being. So that's just a little bit about Audrey. I also want to say that if you would like to hear other episodes on the same broad topic that we are uncovering or started to uncover right now, it's the conversation on how we create safe and loving homes for families with kids. Let's put it in a larger container. And how do we actually connect with them on a deeper level so that that connection lasts a lifetime? So we did have an episode on the newborns up to 7 years of age. There is another episode from 7 to 11. And today it's the time to talk about 12 children 12 years of age through the teenage years. By the way, if you would like to catch up on the earliest stages, you can actually access those videos on my YouTube channel. It's called Zhanna Shpits, just the first and the last name. And Dream Big with Zhanna, just type in my name and Audrey's name, and you will see those episodes. Share if you feel inspired with everybody who has children or planning on having those. So, Audrey, welcome to the show again. My pleasure. And we always bring, with your help, it's your expertise and your wisdom through those years, your knowledge and your vision of what is happening in between the parents and the children. So let's talk about the 12 and up through the teenage years. Could you maybe describe the two polarities? And you can start, I leave it up to you. What is the difference? So now when we are moving up to the 12 years of age and up, what is the major, well, quote unquote, picture of the world that the children see, that the adults not necessarily grasp the vision on because they've moved on or maybe forgot? Most often they forgot what was happening in those ages. So what is the difference in the perception of the world?
You know, it's funny. I think that as the child gets to be 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, there's almost this, I had a parent who told me her 13-year-old, and they had a really good relationship. I mean, the mother has been practicing all the skills I've taught them. And she called me, she said, you won't believe what my I think it was 13-year-old did. She went to the mall, she took her to the mall, and the 13-year-old said, could you walk behind me? I don't want to be walking together. That's a shift from just like maybe months before they were holding hands.
Mm-hmm.
Child now was like, wanted to appear to be on their own, because starting around 12, 13 is when the child thinks they're an adult, okay? And So what happens is many times now this parent, she did great. She called me, she said, is this normal? Like she was like, did I do something wrong? And I was able to reassure her this is absolutely normal. What was really important though is that she didn't take it insult like an insult to herself.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I'm curious what's going on inside of my child that would make them want me to walk behind them. And she actually got a good little chuckle. She, instead of being upset, she's like, she's going through a stage where it's embarrassing to have mom. What I was able to tell her is when her child gets to her 20s, if she uses the skills, the communication skills, keeps using them, the child will hold her hand again. And they'll both laugh over this. So they do come out of this stage. On the other hand, some parents have told me that when the child gets to the teens, it's almost like in their mind, the parent gets stupid. Okay. It's not true, but it's almost like the child acts as if all of a sudden the parent is stupid and the child knows everything. And if you don't have the skills, that could create a lot of bumping of heads and feelings being hurt, and it can actually destroy relationships. So that's the point where you really need those, what we call the I messages, because when a child's acting like you don't know what you're doing or talking about, it can hurt the parent's feelings unless they have the skills of helping the child to know how it feels.
So I wanted to kind of repeat it a little bit. We were talking about the skills, guys. If you're listening for the first time, the skills, and specifically, you were so detailed about the active listening, and that's one of the skills that you encouraged everybody to look into and start processing that in your own way. What are other, maybe just a short tip on another set of skills, or just one skill that could be helpful for this specific age group, 12 through the teens, that you think that the parent has absolutely, like, it's a must for the parent to have if they want the connection?
Okay. So I'm making a little chart.
Sure.
And I'm going to put the part. It's going to be a bad looking chart, but it's going to come.
That's okay. That's fine. That's absolutely.
Here's the chart of the two different kind of skills. And I have 100 skills, but if you learn these two, let's see if we can get a look at that. So up here in this part here, it says the other has a problem. When the other has a problem, how do we know? There's steam coming out of the other's ears. Their eyes are crying. They're jumping up and down. They're red in the face. That's the other. I know it seems crazy because many people think I have a problem because my child's acting like this. When the other's upset, the skill is called active listening. Active listening is listening for underneath the words. And this is funny because I was going to give a tip. I'll give the tip at the end of the question to use to get underneath both your own conscious thinking and the child. Here, I was talking about another skill called an I message. When the child's acting like you're stupid to the parent, or even if they're not saying those words, then the active listening, it's not really, because now the parent's having the problem. If the child is totally happy, like putting the parent down, you could use active listening, and you could say, like, it sounds like you don't think, that I know what I'm talking about, and you're really annoyed with it. Or you could say, ow, that hurt my feelings. I'm really sad.
Right.
I think I don't have any good knowledge. Again, you have to be able to flip back and forth between these two. Now, you see this middle part. This is the no problem area. And what we want to do is increase the no problem so it gets very, very big. And the other two areas of the other has a problem, or those get very tiny. And with these skills, you can almost eliminate the no problem area. Gets so big that there's just a little sliver of the other has a problem or you have a problem. So the skill of active listening is always a good skill. For the mother I was talking about in the mall, whose child wanted her to walk behind her, she could have said, it sounds like you're embarrassed to have me walking with you. This mother didn't need to do it. She knew her child well enough to understand that there was probably some insecurity going on inside.
Mm-hmm.
And the child didn't want others to think that mommy's right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In many households, there's also a little bit of competition that starts happening at this time. Everybody's trying to pull their own power.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And you have to know how to deal with that power struggle in a kind, loving, empathetic way, and not giving up your own needs.
Could I give you a specific situation from a friend of mine? She says that every time the child would leave for school, it's time to leave for school, and then he sees, it's a son, he sees his friends around him, because they usually, his friends are picking him up or join him to walk to the school behind the building. So before he sees the children, his peers and his friends, he's loving, compassionate, huggy, just like Papa Bear, right, child?
Yes.
As soon as the friends are in the picture, he's like, okay, and then he starts acting up, showing off in front of the friends, trying to embarrass. That's what the mom feels. She feels like he's trying to show his power by embarrassing an adult, not necessarily the mom. Like, here is what I can do. So what would you, like, to my own mom, this is my relationship with it, which is not true. I mean, it's not his nature. What would you suggest to the parent in this situation? Does she talk in front of the friends? And even if she does, what does she say? What does she say? Like, very.
Okay. I think the first step is a conversation privately with her son. The last thing you want to do is embarrass him in front of his friends, and then he digs his heels in and will not listen to you. So I think he goes off to school. When he comes back in a time of peace and quiet and everything's cool, the parent would use an iMessage. That really hurt me this morning when you, now here's the thing, we want to talk about the behavior rather than when you were so nasty. That's not a behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, when you said, Mom, you don't know what you're talking about, that hurt my feelings. And we need to come up with a better plan so that when your friends come, you don't feel embarrassed by me and I don't feel hurt by you. Do you see, in a time of quiet, the last thing you want to do is when the friends are there, try to have a conversation. It's going nowhere.
Yes.
Because the child's going to have to prove that he's cool and that he doesn't care about mom, if that's his coolness.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say that this could happen no matter what you've done as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
It can also happen if you haven't dealt with the fact that the child's growing up and doesn't want the friends to see him as huggy, kissy teddy bear.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs to be able to learn how to speak and say, Mom, it's okay to do that when my friends are not around. But when you see them, you got to back off, because he has a need too. Yeah. So that's a conversation that happens. And the parent's job is to go, like, the iMessages that hurt my feelings. The active listening is you look at your son, and like you said, he's a wonderful child. And you say, I know that's not how you really are. So I know something had to be happening. And I'm really curious, because the kid might not know.
Yeah.
Unconscious, it's subconscious. He just knows he wants to look cool. So when you say, I'm really curious what was going on for you, and then you stop and you don't speak and you wait. So that was like tip for today, is to actually use the wording. This is the question. Mm-hmm. I'm really curious what is going on for you. Mm-hmm. If it's so funny, I'll teach this, and then a parent will come back and say, I tried that, it didn't work. I'll say, what do you mean? Tell me what you said. Because I know these skills work. So if it didn't work, either I need to know what's going on, maybe there's a mistake I'm making. The parent goes, I said to my son, so why are you doing that? And he said, whoa, stop.
Yeah.
Dirty question, why? Is it, I call it my dirty words.
Yes.
Why is going to get you a head answer.
Yes.
I'm curious what that's about will get you the heart answer, the underlying answer.
Yes. But how do you deal with a lot of times you get, I don't know?
Well, you won't get the I don't know if you ask, I'm curious what was going on for you. And then if the child says, if look, it could happen that because maybe this is not the way you're used to communicating. The
Mhm.
child says, I don't know. You can say, I know you don't know consciously. I'm sure of it. But I wonder, let's go back and think about right before your friends came, we were hugging and kissing. And then all of a sudden they came to the door and something changed. Go back, just close your eyes and think about, was something going on inside? Were you feeling a certain way? Was I stepping too close to your space? Did you feel embarrassed? You could kind of help. But usually when you ask that question, I'm really curious, and you stop and you don't keep talking, it gives the unconscious time to like come up and say, oh, mom, I felt like really embarrassed that, you were hugging me when my friends showed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, these are like quick tips and they work, but there's a whole lot of other things that if things don't work, we need to know the next step.
Right. So this is brilliant. And just to finish that situation up, so I'm curious what's going on. And then the child gives you the answer. Let's say I felt really embarrassed that you were hugging me in front of my kids. I mean, in front of my friends. And then the adult's behavior, does it have to be a power struggle? And you say, as a mom, she would say, hey, you know what? You're never supposed to be embarrassed because I'm your mom and I will keep doing that. What's the next step for the adult in this situation?
That's a really good way of putting it. Because sometimes the parent wants to do that. They want to say, I don't care what you're feeling. You don't act like that to me. And that is, I believe it's a truth. We never want to be abused by anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But in this particular case, the child has just revealed something that they felt embarrassed. So before we go to telling them what they should or shouldn't do, because I do believe this is called a problem solving situation where both people have a different viewpoint. Mother thinks, why would you not want to give me a hug? And that's not okay to act like I'm a fool. And the child's thinking, I need to look cool. This is a problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
So when the child says, I'm embarrassed, and the parent wants to say, well, you're never to talk to me like that, before they say that, I mean, there's better ways of saying it, but before they say it, you want to active listen. Now, who's having the problem? If the child says, I was embarrassed, it doesn't matter whether or not you think he should be embarrassed or not. That's how he felt.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, you must say it's really hard that on the one hand, you want to hug me and love me and show how much, you're my little kid. But on the other hand, you're kind of moving into adult and it feels kind of weird. And then the child can say, yeah, mom, I'm so sorry. And here's the brilliant thing that happens. Many times the child will go, I'm really sorry I hurt your feelings. And the parents almost bowled over because that's just what they needed to hear. But if you tell a child, I'm going to keep doing this, you're just creating a lot of, the kid feels like you don't care about my needs.
Yeah.
And what's that? So now the kid is even with little kids, you never force a child to kiss somebody. It's abusive. Like maybe that's too big of a word, but if a kid doesn't feel comfortable kissing the grandparent or kissing an uncle, you could have a conversation later and say, just go give a quick hug because it makes, but if the child really doesn't want to, then you find a different way of showing happiness when somebody shows up.
You can always ask, you can ask a child, what would you rather do? Sometimes it could be a high five, sometimes it could be blow a kiss without touching it. It could be cultural thing too. Okay?
I love that, like blowing a kiss. It's funny. I'm working with a family right now, and the young girl who was always like huggy, kissy, love. All of a sudden, she's 13, and she's like, her grandparents who she loves, but she doesn't want. So her mother came up with a very good solution, which is what you said: just blow a kiss.
Exactly.
But it's funny, this same kid, when the grandparent would come visit, And I don't remember what state the grandparent lives in, but it's not the same state. So it would be not like they wouldn't see him every day. And the child didn't want to say goodbye when the grandparent left. And luckily, this mother was knowledgeable enough to say to her mom, she said, my daughter feels really sad when you leave. So you need to say goodbye like 3 hours ahead of time. And then when you leave, you just say, see you later, because the kid couldn't deal with it. And sometimes if that's, again, what we're talking about is looking underneath. Yeah. If this child, this loving child, is not acting the way they usually do, I guarantee there's something going on underneath. They didn't all of a sudden turn into uncaring person.
Yeah. Let me ask you another question. This is all brilliant. Can you, and I think the answer will be, I guess I know the answer to that, but I still want to ask you, can you skip this stage that is called, well, we don't call it officially terrible teenage years, but everybody, like the adults, feel scared of the teenagers because they never know what the teachers feel scared, strangers feel scared of that. So is it possible to completely go into this no problem, like extend that no problem zone? And when do you need to start to get to that point so that you transition and glide through the teenage years smoothly, just like it happened with your children? Because I remember you shared that in the first interview.
Yes. Like, even if you're doing the greatest parenting job, even if you're using all the skills, there's gonna come time when, many times when the child, your loving child, becomes this moody, raging teenager. And those are the times where the parent needs to go inside and say, okay, am I doing something that is causing a power struggle? Or is the kid hormonally, going through something? And I still believe even when the child's going through something, like the parent who had to walk behind, it's many years later, the kid's not doing that anymore. She's grown up. You can't, I would love to say, oh, you could completely glide through and never have this happen, but I don't think that's realistic. I think the best we can do, and I've been very lucky with my kids, but there were times, and I use these skills, there were times that I really needed to actively listen because something was going on that seemed so absurd, but I had to pull back. And so here's another question I use. When a child's doing something that seems really out of the norm of who they are, or even if it becomes the norm, you want to always go in and say, this is not a love issue. This is a child having a problem issue. Because if you, like, even parents sometimes will make, whether the child puts the dishes into the dishwasher, into like, if they loved me, they would do it. No, this isn't a love issue. It's a dishes issue. You see?
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that.
and so what am I really saying? I'm saying if we could change the way we perceive what is happening, we won't, like the first arrow is when the child is shooting us with a negative comment. The second arrow is when we're shooting ourselves and telling us my kid doesn't love me.
Yeah.
It's not, if you ask any parent, do you think your kid loves you? They're going to, even when the kid is the worst, they're going to say, yeah, I know he loves me. I just don't understand what. So we don't want to shoot ourselves with the second arrow. That's, if they love me, this is not a love issue. So, I could tell you a little story about something in my own life that happened.
Sure.
So my son was, and if I told this story, let me know, but this is the 13-year-old story. So he was 13. And I tell you this? And I went away for a conference for 4 days. Did I tell you this story? Okay, no. This is a really good story because it demonstrates the whole thing. Now, my son was one of those kids, a really good kid. I mean, he played football, but he was also a student. He was a really nice, loving child. And I left him home for the weekend. I had friends who would come pop in and out just to check when I went away for a conference. And as a single parent, you sometimes have to do these things. And I said to him, Jake, the only thing I ask of you is when I get home, I need the kitchen to be clean. I just hate coming into dishes in the sink and the kitchen a mess. You know, there's money for pizza. My friends are going to be coming in to check on you guys. But so I came in earlier on a Sunday than I thought it would be. And so I walk in the house, it's 3:30 in the afternoon, and the dishes is piled to the top with dishes. Now, the sink is piled with dishes. I'm normal, I'm human. The first thing I went into is, if my kid loved me, he would have done those dishes. It's the one thing I asked him to do. And then also I fell into some really negative old junk, and I was so angry. I didn't do it. I didn't act on it, but I wanted to take all his clothing and throw him out the window. How stupid was that if I had to go buy him new clothing? But I was just so angry. Mm-hmm. Literally, I'm telling you the story. In 3 seconds, my mind flipped and it went, wait a minute. This is not a love issue. It's dishes in the sink. And I'm so lucky I had been using these skills for longer than my children were alive. And even though I went into the ragey parent for like literally maybe 3 seconds, but it felt like an hour. As soon as my brain flipped over and goes, wait a minute, this is not a love issue. This is a dishes issue. I said, and when he comes in, I don't know where he was. When he comes in, neither kid was around. When they come home, I'll find out what happened. If there's no good reason, then we'll have a conversation about this. But I'm going to assume that this is not a love issue. This is not a not caring about mom issue. So I went and did the dishes, and I'm singing, and I have the music on, and I'm telling myself, well, the house is still standing. My kids are all right. I don't have any messages. And he walked in the door just as I'm finishing the last dishes. I mean, there was quite a lot. And he puts his hands up and he goes, Mom, I am so sorry about the dishes. I was going to get them done before you got home. I was at my friend's house. His mother was having a nervous breakdown, and I was trying to calm her down. Oh. Number one, what is a little 13-year-old doing calming an adult down who's having a nervous breakdown for whatever reason? But number two, if I would have been a ragey, crazy maniac, it would have hurt our relationship. Instead, I said, yeah, I was disappointed the dishes were full, but okay, what's going on? Do you see the difference there? And I thought to myself, I could have just wrecked my relationship if all his clothing was out on the lawn. Not that I would have done that, but I felt like it. You know, sometimes we do have vengeful fantasies. Okay.
Of course. Yeah.
So, but I was so lucky because literally I had one or 2 seconds of grief, and I didn't hurt the relationship. Is that a point to?
It's absolutely, it's beautiful. In the moral of the story, the whole beautiful story is that when you have the right set in the intention and also recognition based on constant practicing of the skills that you keep talking about, and that's the skills that will transform your life in not only between mother-son relationship, it just transcends into any area of your life, any type of relationship. We're social animals, right? It's amazing how the first step is to recognize and stop yourself in the more understanding that, hey, this is what I'm thinking right now in the moment. But, and I love it how you say it, it's not the love issue, it's the dishes issue. Guess what, Audrey? I have the same thing about the dishes in the sink, because that's the thing. Because usually I come through the garage in my house to my house, and the first thing I see is the kitchen, the counter, and the dishes in the sink. I found a solution. I usually call my kids half an hour before, and I say, "Hey, I'm on the way home. Could you please make sure?" And they
giving them a heads up that now they have time. Take care of this.
Yes.
And that's the way they show they care about you.
Absolutely. One of the ways. Yeah.
It's one tiny way. But it shows the relationship with the child that you have, because in some homes, if the parent called and said, I'm on the way home, could you take care of the dishes? The kid will go, no, I'm too busy, or they'll make excuses. When the child buys in that, hey, you know what, this is important to mom, even if I don't really care. And they do it, then you know that it's a good relationship. You know that they have felt their needs have been met.
Yeah, yeah. And it's something what we've been discussing today. And thank you so much for the tips. So I'll just kind of reiterate, and we're gonna wrap it up today's conversation. But more to come. Stay tuned. And so the two important tips that we got from you today is, number one, it's the question. I'm curious what is going on right now. It's also pay attention to the language. I'm curious is such a beautiful way to put it, because it doesn't insult anyone, and it just brings you into the heart area of your answer is going to come not from your logic but from the heart. And then the second one is this: it's not the love issue, it's the dishes issue, or whatever other issue it is. So it's brilliant. Thank you so much, Audrey. Do you have any other gems before I'm going to make an announcement, and also we'll get into the nice bow at the end.
Okay.
Do you have any other gems to the parents?
I do have another gem. Here's the when I'm first training parents, they'll come back the next week and they say, yeah, I did exactly what you said. And I said to my child, yeah, I'm really curious what's going on here. And I didn't get the response you told me I'd get. And I go like, whoa, wait a minute. Say that again. And they go, I'm really curious. And I said, the tone of voice is as much to do as what you're saying. And so this is the harder part. In the middle of when you're angry with somebody, you literally need to pull yourself out of the situation. I have a tool called the distancing technique. You just pull yourself as if you're looking at it from a distance. That's a hypnotic technique. And then you really want to be, this is how I think it. My child is I love my child, and I know that inside they're wonderful. So if they're not acting so wonderful, I really am curious what's going on for them. So you're saying the tone of voice is, I'm really curious. What's going on for you?
Yeah.
No, that's not how you usually are. So I know some, and that is again looking for the good, like we talked about last time. Yes. Looking for the good, no matter what it looks like on the outside. So, and then this is not a love issue. The other part of that is the parent wants to say, yes, it is, if they cared. So I'm just going to ask you, just for a week, practice saying, okay, just for a week, I'm going to say to myself, truly, this is not a love issue. My child does care about me. So if they haven't done something, there's probably a good reason for it in their mind. I don't have to agree with their reasoning. This is where you need the active listening, the iMessaging, and problem solving, all three sets of skills.
Yes.
That would be my wrap up of that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so very much. Yes. So, and as usual, everybody who would like to have, first of all, if you would like to reach out to Audrey and have a conversation, please do so by any means on anxietycontrolcenter.com. So
there's a contact Audrey button on the anxietycontrolcenter.com. There's a button there that you just say contact Audrey. Yeah.
Contact Audrey. And then you still have the gift, the gift available through the same website. And the gift, could you please remind everybody who's listening for the first time?
So the gift is, it's a hypnotic mind calming, it's a body mind calming tool. It's actually a 7-minute video where I'm showing you how to use your mind in a different way. And it's a very easy, anybody can do it. It's an easy exercise. It's 7 minutes, and at the end is an energy healing. And that's also at anxietycontrolcenter.com /stress-breath. But if you go to the website, anxietycontrolcenter.com, it's in the right-hand corner, and you just click and put your email in, and it comes as a downloadable video.
Yes, absolutely. So you can do that. And also, if you guys have any questions, any comments, any feedback on what you've heard today, please comment below the video on Facebook, on Hummingbird Academy today. That's where we are streaming. Or the video is going to be available on YouTube channel. You can join the YouTube channel, and it's Zhanna Shpits. comment below that video. You can reach out through the website directly to Audrey. And there are so many ways nowadays. It's very simple. It just makes makes our life simple. And please think about other questions that you might have for Audrey. And if we have, even if it's one question, we will answer it on our next episode. And here is the heads up. Next time, we're going to be talking about your adult children. So we pass the teenage years, we go into 20s and beyond, like 20s and up. How to communicate and how to be in a loving and stay in a loving, deep connection and relationship with your children who are growing up. So that's it. Yeah, that's it for today. You're watching Dream Big with Zhanna, inspiring you to reignite, refire, and refuel your life. And we had a pleasure to be with the absolute brilliant, amazing, very wise, and very knowledgeable Audrey Sussman on the show. Thank you so much. Thank you. We'll see you soon.